All right, folks, it is a sad day for this country, indeed. Um, APAC defeated Thomas Massie yesterday in his congressional primary in Kentucky. Um, Ed Gallerin did not beat Thomas Massie. On his best day, he couldn't beat Thomas Massie. You're talking about a guy who has won with overwhelming majority support since he was elected. And if you take a look at what happened, right? How does a guy go from here with support? Now, these are closed primaries, so only Republicans can vote, which I hate that because it throws out independents, and then some Democrats may want to vote for him, right? Separate issue. How do you take a guy that was here and then he loses by almost 10 full percentage points to, I mean, he's not a nobody, but the only thing I know about Ed Gallerin is three things. One, he's Trump's whipping dog. Two, he's a Navy SEAL, retired Navy SEAL. And three, he's funded by APAC. This is the most expensive congressional race in the history of the United States. I think they hit around $35 million, which is just an obscene amount of money for this type of congressional race, right? So if you go back to what happened, what did Thomas Massie do to cause him to lose to somebody like this? He's a Second Amendment absolutist, right? Absolutist. He votes against big surveillance on the government surveilling its own people, which is against the law, but we know they do it. Thank you, Edward Snowden. He is a civil liberties proponent. He's recently come out with a bill, and it'll die in his absence. But it was requiring APAC to be listed as a foreign government entity, which it should be. Every other country is. For some reason, they don't have to. You can figure that out for yourself. He's a non-interventionist. All these wars, it's not our job to police the entire fucking nation or the world, the entire world. And that's what our military has been turned into. That's not what it's intended to do. Foreign aid, not a big fan on it, just as a broad brushstroke. And he voted with the Republican Party approximately 90% of the time, 90 to 94, depending on what stat you look at, right? Who's writing the stats? He's a libertarian, right? But you can't run as a true libertarian and get a nomination. They're just, Ross Perot taught them that because that guy almost won, terrified both sides, right? So here's what I've learned. And I had hoped that somebody who leans on the Constitution as much as Thomas Massie does, apparently that doesn't mean shit anymore. Because from everything I've watched, This guy started and ended with the Constitution. Is this constitutionally legal? Yes or no? And then he voted that way. If it was for the party, great. If it was against the party, fine. He didn't care. Nor should anybody care. We're in this populist moment where one side only cares about dunking on the other side. And that's why the middle class, one of the reasons, is getting crushed. Congress is the problem, not the president. Congress, House of Representatives, Senate. They are now and have been for decades the problem. And it's going to take us, we the people, getting a constitutional amendment put in for term limits. They're doing backstop deals, they're insider trading that would send literally anybody listening to this straight to prison. They're getting fabulously wealthy. Mike Johnson stood on his platform the other day and said, well, they just can't afford to blah, 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 blah. And fuck you. The second thing this election taught me is that our democracy is an illusion. It's not real. We don't have any representation whatsoever. If one person, the president, can just choose to bomb a country, he didn't ask anybody's permission. One of the checks and balances is that you don't have a president running loose doing what Trump's doing right now. And one of the reasons Congress is the problem is because they're terrified of getting primaried because they care more about their power and their fucking seat in Congress than they do about doing the right thing. Thomas Massie stood on principle. That's why he's not in his seat anymore. Understand that. He stood on what he believed was right and just and in line with the Constitution of this country. That's why he's not in his seat anymore. And you've replaced him with just another yes man for Trump. That's all Ed Gallerin is. That's all he'll ever be. We should want 535 Thomas Massies. I've said this a million times. Hell, 300. Give me 300 people with the balls to vote the way Thomas Massie votes, irrespective of party. Don't care about party. Party means zero to me, and it meant zero to Thomas Massie. Third thing I learned from this primary election is that we still have a dumb voter problem in this country. People see a clip and they run with it. If you look at how Massie's popularity broke down by age, boomers who are stuck on Fox News and AON and, these other right-wing things, that's where he lost, right? 40 and under, wiped the floor with Gallup. Unfortunately, a lot of people 40 and under, especially 25 and under, 30 and under, don't vote because they're so disenfranchised. And a lot of them, may not be Republican, and it is a Republican only vote. That's why you need open voting, period, full stop, for everybody. Let everybody have a say. But I'm sick to death. Um, this country is on a fast track to just a total collapse, a literal physical collapse. We've been morally bankrupt for years, the bulk of my life. And I don't see if a political action committee can come in and just buy a seat, then we don't have a democracy. We don't have anything close to a representative republic. Not even close. It's dead and gone. They did the same thing to Cori Bush, who I'm not a fan of, in Missouri couple years ago, and I think Jamal Bowman in New York did the same thing to him. All three of these people, Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush, and Thomas Massie, all had one thing in common. What do you think that might be? Maybe the only thing they had in common. They refused to bow the knee to Israel. And they got bought. They got bought out of office. It's just sickening. But as Tom Bilyeu always says, once you learn to see politicians and the people backing them through the lens of realpolitik, meaning they only care about obtaining power and then keeping said power, then a lot of the stuff they do starts to make way more sense. But we make no mistake, we are an occupied country for sure. And it's not even a conspiracy theory. They're just saying the loud part out loud. And if you can't see it with this vote, Massie was one of the most popular representatives in the whole of Congress. Worked on both sides to try to get stuff done. So yeah, I'm sick and I'm pretty well done with this whole thing. Y'all be cool.